Start broadcast first or record first?
The left one.
Okay. So we're in the middle of this dense chapter called Reish Chav Daled, which will go down in history. Chapter 224 about Moiches Tema. So I began doing some research a bit, continuing our discussion here to go back to the sources, because he keeps quoting here the Zohar as well as the Eitz Chaim. So just for the record, to know the process of how to Chassidus is just like when you're learning, in a sense, when you're learning Gemara, you learn Shulchan Aruch, you have to retrace the steps and see how others cite the sources. So this Rebbe Rashab obviously is writing things that have been written before, maybe he's elaborating more. So I looked at Tzemach Tzedek, who actually talks mamish the same thing, this whole thing about Moiches Tema in Eira Teira Shlach. So I'm just sharing that. I'm still in the middle of researching it, but when I finish, I'll share my results. But it's no question to get to the bottom of it. It goes back to the exact sources, which are traced to the Zohar and to the Zohar and Eitz Chaim, that really map out the whole unconscious, and how Moiches Tema works, how the Golgotha works, the skull, the unconscious, the deeper level of the unconscious. So I think that will tremendously help understand what it says here, because it's, as I said, dense, and every letter counts, every word counts. So where are we? We're middle of the page, and also bear in mind that this is reviewing something that he already addressed earlier. If you go back, I was just looking earlier as well. You see, there's a whole. Started Peir Kuf Tzadik Beis, but after Peir Kuf Tzadik Beis, there's a whole. Here we go. In Perik Reish, if I could refer to that for a moment, that's when he really maps out the Kabbalistic structure of the spheres. You have to remember the Zohar and the Eitz Chaim are the places that are the official sources for the structure of Atik, Arich. If someone says to you, where does it say there's Atik and Arich? What's the source of it? It's not in the Gemara. It's not in Chumash. I mean, you have L'Shemus, Atik Yemin, Arich Hampin, but you don't have, who says that's the level of Kesa? So the first real source is the Zohar. But the Zohar is very cryptic. So the second source that we usually go to is Eitz Chaim, which is the Arizal. And there's other Kabbalistic sources, but those are like real legitimate sources. The equivalent of Gemara in Kabbalah is Zohar. Rashbi was a Tana, so he's an authority. So in general, all these levels are rooted in Eitz Chaser and Eitz Chaim. That's why you look in Perik Reish, look like 9 lines from the top, 10 lines from the top. So he says, "Va'inyan hu dehine bezeir beitz Chaim mashma the gili primis the atiku b'chochmas tema dafke." This is the root of what we're learning now. So mashma, in other words, the Rebbe Rashab is saying, and the same thing that Tzemach Tzedek says, the same mashma, that when you learn Zohar and Eitz Chaim, it appears that the gila primis atik, which we talking about pleasure, is in chochmas tema ubul golgalta, and in the crown, in the skull, is bechinas atik u bechinas makif levad, v'hurak bechinas chitzenius atik. Then he goes into a whole arichas quoting and citing those sources. But I just want to point out how vital it is that all this is really an understanding of Zohar and Eitz Chaim according to the way that Rabbi Rashab is explaining it. So let's go back now to Reish Chav Daled, and let's continue where we left off, and with the fresh new koiches that we got this morning. So we have new.
When you say something's the root of it, that means it's the same thing, because we said the same. The Chacham was really Atik, and now we're saying that that Atik is merely the root of Chacham.
No, the expression there is Gili Primis Atik Hu B'Chachmas Tema. The Gili, the revelation of Primis Atik is in Chachmas Tema. Doesn't use the word root. I may have used it, but
yeah, use the word root.
No, he doesn't use the word root.
So also, Gili is also different from. Not saying it is.
Well, no, that's not right. Chachma is a Gili of Tainug. That's
okay. But yesterday we were saying that
It's tainug, but tainug begili. Remember, it's
begili. So everything is atmos begili.
It's not true.
The whole world
Not
is
true.
atmos begili.
Absolutely not correct.
Begili of atmos. No,
No, not at all.
brought down.
What's the difference then between a neshama of a id and a stone? What's the difference between Torah?
Okay, but one
Torah. What's the difference between Torah and a table? That's not correct what you're saying.
Okay.
Everything is rooted in asmos. That's correct. Gili asmos.
Right.
Even the neshama is not gili asmos because the neshama is actually hidden.
Okay, fine.
In other words, everything is rooted in asmos. That's for
Okay.
sure. He's the source. The question, however, is when you say something is rooted in something, does not mean it's the same thing as it comes down at a lower level. For example, a garment is not rooted in the body. It's just a garment that conceals and it covers the body. So he's saying that Chochmah is not a levush. Chochmah is the manifestation of Tainug. But it's not Tainug because then it would be called Tainug. It would be called Tainug, not Chochmah. The reason it's called Chochmah is because it's the gili of it. When you come to build a home, you need to have the details, the structure, the whole strategy that Chochmah, the Chochmah supplies.
So gili of atik is the same thing as saying gili of tainug.
Yeah, Atik is like Tainug. Right?
So,
Atik is Tainug.
Atik is tainug. It's not a manifestation of tainug. Tainug is not a manifestation of it.
Atik is a spiritual level. Generally speaking, that spiritual level is defined as the level of Tainug. Does Atik have things that are not Tainug? Well, look, we know there's Moich in the Atik. But generally speaking, Atik is the level of Tainug. Arich is the level of Rotzen.
The big jump is when you say that the Chochmah is
Tainug, Rotzen, Chochmah, Bina.
We were saying yesterday. We were saying Chochmah is tainug,
But Chochmah, then it wouldn't be. Why is it called Chochmah if Chochmah is Tainug? It adds something.
Yesterday.
But it adds something.
Okay.
It adds a major dimension. It adds what Chochmah adds. When you say it should say Tainug is Tainug. Chochmah is another level, but it's Tainug as it manifests in strategy, basically. The strategy of the building of the home, like the example that he used. Whereas levels lower are just the tools or they're just concealments and so on. The question is primis abba, primis atik. That's the expression, the root of it. Okay, so basically he's saying that this Kisui in Helen, what the Zohar says, that kiasiso pella kisur v'levusha d'neheda da'atika, that Chochmah is the cover, the levush of the light of Atik. So Chochmah in a sense conceals it, but that concealment is really the bringing the Atik into a keli. That's really what it comes down to. Since Atik itself doesn't have keli.
But you just
and therefore, what?
No, you just said. I'm sorry. You mentioned strategy, like Chochmah and strategy.
It's an example. Strategy is a word. I
No,
remember
I'm
speaking
asking-
English. He doesn't use the word strategy.
I know. I want to know English.
The way Chochmah, he said, is Chochmah. A person has the pleasure to want to build a
The
home.
strategy is
That manifests in Chochmah to figuring
more
out all
of
the
a-
details of building that home.
Okay.
That's what he says here.
No, because the strategy is how to get there. It's not really the thing. itself.
We're not talking business language. We're talking Chassidus language. Strategy, no. Tainug doesn't have a strategy how to build a house. Tainug just says, I want pleasure in a house.
Yeah.
Chochmah figures out the details.
Okay, so the Chochmah is the details of the.
But the details include strategies. Just, it has to include strategy.
But
The
anyway.
Chochmah is tainug according to some.
Not according to me, according to Rabbi Rashab.
No,
it is.
He says that Lashon.
Okay.
I'm reading language.
That's some-
I'm not explaining. I'm explaining what he says.
Okay,
This is not my explanation. He says the Lashon as that Tainug isn't.
So that's medicine. That's what it is.
No, it's a Lashon that he keeps saying. We went back when we learned. Where was the thing about the house in Kuf Sadik Beis?
No, dollar.
Reish Beis.
Reish dollar.
So what is
Zayin
it?
or Reish dollar?
So there he said it is. No, it's earlier.
Reish Gimel, yeah. Yes, you're right. Reish Gimel.
ובאמס התיינג עצמי הוא שנעשה בחינת שכל וחוכמה.
Right.
He says it in several different ways. He says the same thing.
But it goes lower. In other words, it's.
אבל באמס התיינג הוא עצמי שנעשה בחינת חוכמה.
Right.
Okay. So Chachma is what. So with the lashon of the Zohar is the Chachma is mailim on. In other words, conceals is like the container to tainuk to atik. But he explains it's not like a regular concealer, like for example a garment that conceals. He says on top, "Ein ze k'moya levusha mechasa ki ma shatainug nasa b'chinas chachma." Basically, the essence and the pnimius and the essence of chachma is the pnimius of chachmas tamah, and that is the level of tainug atzmi that became chachma. So therefore, when tainug goes into chachma, it's not just like it goes into a garment, which is an outside force or something that is just a concealer. This is actually just a manifestation of tainug in the level of chachma that allows it to manifest. Okay. So going.
And the words are clear. What is the practical difference if you say that something is a levush on let's say the chacham is a levush that holds it back, or it's itself in held back? What's the practical difference?
There are many differences. One is just a matter of the same thing on a lower level. The other one is a completely different mohus. I mean, it's like
I understand there's a difference, but what is like? How would you? If I saw it, if you saw Tainug Chacham Tainug, you can tell that the Chacham is it's etzem of it, and it's only sasum, and rather not that it's a levush that's blocking it.
Well, to look for an example among us, as I said, this is Chachma of Kedusha. Most of us, we don't relate to this type of Chachma.
Right.
The Chachma we use is mostly about conceiving of petty things. So it's very hard to... But if you went Mamayla Lamata, I gave an example. Torah, for example, is Chachmas Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Mm-hmm.
But we also know it's rooted in the Shashuyim Lefanov, which is really what he's leading up to, is the Tainug of the Eibishter.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, let's put it this way: Tainug is closer to the etzem of something. You know, when you say the Eibishter Nisava Kodesh Baruch Hu desires something, it's more of a reflection of etzem. Where Chachma, you can say, is a little more out of the etzem,
right.
because Chachma is already a structure; it breaks it into details.
Right.
But here's two ways you can look at it. You could say, okay, the Eibishter had a desire to create a world,
Mm-hmm.
and then, as a result, he created instructions to the human race, to the inferior human race, how to serve him.
Mm-hmm.
But those instructions really don't have all the desire in them.
Right.
In other words, they'll never be able to retrace the steps.
Diversion.
It's like you're giving your worker, I'm giving an
Yeah.
example, instructions, but you make sure that those instructions don't have enough for him to be able to steal the ideas.
Right.
Let's put it that way, because he doesn't really get
The whole thing.
the essence of your the nekuda where it all started.
In other words, it's a tool.
Only a tool.
Yeah, it's a tool.
Yeah, only a tool. Only.
Right.
I'm saying
Right,
that
so it's
intentionally,
only a
because
tool,
Chachma, even from the... But the Eibishter did something else. It says, Anon nafshis k'sovis yehovis.
Right.
He placed himself in the Torah.
I am the tool.
Now, the Torah actually manifests
Right.
atzmos.
Right.
So it began in a it began in the Tainug of the Eibishter, in wanting to create a world, have a dira b'tachtenim, etc.
Right.
But instead of just giving people some type of limited, or this would be a levush,
Right. Experience.
a limited document
Right. Of that.
that doesn't really trace its steps back. He said, I'm giving you my Torah, my chachmosei,
Everything.
my whole
Being.
etzem and tainuk, and all my pnimis is in there. And if you dig, you'll find it. So that would be so it is a level of concealment. What do I mean by concealment? Because it's already giving a keli to the tainuk. In other words, if we only had access to the Eibishter's tainuk, we wouldn't be able to relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because this, like what this way we can relate. For example, we relate when it says Anochi Hashem Elokecha. It's a mitzvah. Put on film, keep Shabbos, eat kosher. So in the beginning, from our perspective, it's a bunch of details, but within it lies Tainug Atzmi. That when you Mekayim Rotzna Elyon and you learn the Torah, the wisdom of the Torah, beginning you think it's your level of wisdom. I'm a smart guy. I understand this. I read also mathematics and I read Torah. But in truth is you're really reading Tainug Ha'atzmi that's just manifests itself in a level of Chochmah and so on. So as opposed to, for example, a book of mathematics, nobody's going to say you're reading math or physics or science, that in this lies the atzmus of this. They'll say the deepest you go, it's very deep. What's this? But in Torah, you're saying that when you learn the wisdom of Torah, you're actually getting the etzem of the Eibishter. You're relating to something that is beyond just
So the etzem of
the
the
wisdom.
is to always be happy.
Well, Tainug, I don't know if the word Simcha is more happy. Tainug is more pleasure, more like contentment, fulfillment.
That's the etzem of the Eibishter, and we're supposed to be like them.
By all means, absolutely. If we were seamless, if we were like, look at the young children, they're always happy until adults make them sad. You know,
I don't know, when the kid's born, so she didn't seem happy, screamed.
Screaming is not
right, exactly. He's screaming delight seeing a father like you.
Yeah.
He looked at you. First of all, Chassidus says he screams. The Mittler Rebbe writes he screams because he sees what world he's entering and what world he's leaving.
That doesn't sound like happiness.
But that's not the opposite of happiness.
It doesn't
First
sound
of
like
all,
contentment. Okay.
if you were last week in Evis Yisrael, I gave a whole talk. Simcha P'Torah is not simcha. In the secular world, simcha is a verb. In Torah, it's a noun. It's a state of being. What's simcha in the regular world? Give me what I want, and give me a piece of food, sexual pleasure, this, that, taiva, that, taiva. And it usually doesn't last long. Simcha in Yiddishkeit is knowing that where you are is where you're supposed to be. Your neshama knows it's fulfilling its purpose. Tisha B'Av is also the mitzvah of Ivdus Hashem b'Simcha. It doesn't say 364 days you just do Simcha. However, Simcha on Tisha B'Av is by sitting Shiva and crying. A person cries up, really cries. It's also it's not Simcha in the sense you're standing up and dancing and celebrating, but you're doing what is supposed to be done at that time. So Simcha and tears are not stira necessarily. Obviously, we'd like to have a combination of both. That the Simcha should be begili, like us. For example, it says on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Vigili Barada. Right? You're standing before the king. It's a great once in a lifetime opportunity. You're standing before Melech Malchei Amlachim. But you don't make somersaults. You don't start drinking l'chaims, and you don't start singing and dancing. You stand with awe. Gilu Barada. So it's gila, but it's with awe. It says when you leave the king's palace on Sukkot, Simchas Torah, that's when you start dancing. It's the dance of Yom Kippur. Anyway, that's another discussion. So let's go back here. So that's my best example that I can give. Do we have an example for that in our lives? It's not so common. It's not so common because we don't have such a connection between our, what we do is disconnected mostly from our etzma nefesh. I used yesterday the example of the Rebbe. I have no doubt that the system of mivtzoyim and shlichus and the Rebbe's so-called structure of what he asked of us is a reflective of the Rebbe's etzem. In a sense, it's reflective of the Eibishter's mission. Like the Rebbe said in the first Maimer, there's Deir Hashvi, the shlichus of the Doors, to bring V'shachanti B'seichem from the Shechina, from the Rekiya Hashvi down to earth. Rekiya HaRishon down to earth. That's the driving force. Dilei Mashiach, and that obviously means it's the shlichus of our generation. The Eibishter said is the shlichus. And then when you look at the details, meaning the details like go on shlichus here, miftzeh matzah, miftzeh this, miftzeh that. That no question is the chochmah that the Rebbe used to implement I don't know if the word tainug is the right word, but the general mission.
The goal.
Yeah.
To achieve the goal, you need.
Yeah. Whereas most of us actually it is disconnected.
Right.
You may say to your children you share your deepest things. When you go to business, someone's business is connected. Kavanah would be b'chol derech dehu, but most of us there's a disconnect at some point. Not dafka that it means it's a klippa or something or it's bad. It's just to have that type of seamlessness would mean that you began you began everything from your divine mission, and that's how you chose what you're going to do the rest of the day.
Right.
Look, there were chassidim and shluchim that did that. That's how they lived. Right. They woke up in the morning. The only question was, what am I supposed to do? The Rebbe wants me to do today. That's all that mattered. And then their chachma is somewhat of a
to figure out.
That's the closest example I can give.
There you go.
Okay, so basically, we stop by this l'cheda ein muvan, which, as I think I said yesterday, is not really a new question. He's really just like summing up and analyzing it, because you see he asks it and immediately answers it with what he said earlier. It's not like a long. Basically, he's saying is that therefore this chochma is called mailim, but it's a helem that's atzmi, a helem ha'atzmi, because it's the etzem of the tainug itself, as it comes into the level of Chochmah. But remember, Primish Chochmas Tema, when it comes there, it's still quite concealed. It's still Helam Asmi, that's why it says the Helam of the Makif, the Er Chezer, which is Sosam Be'etzim. The L'cheira in the movement, I'm right in the middle. The L'cheira in the movement, Machar Shazel Masha Mailu Mechas Al B'chinas Atik. Since we just said that Chochmas Tema is what conceals, and Mechasa, and covers, that's the Lashon from the Zohar, the first line of the chapter, look. Kisua Ulavusha. Meaning that it conceals, it covers and it conceals on the level of Atik, Kepashtus Lashon HaZohar, as he's citing, because that's the simple meaning of the Zohar. So the Lashon is Mechase, Eichu B'chinas Sosum Be'etzim. How then is it the level that's Sosum Be'etzim, fundamentally, essentially concealed? So the
question is that because it's a levush.
This is what we got stuck. What exactly is the meaning of this question?
Yeah.
No, he's saying maybe it seems a levush hamaylim to us.
Yeah, I understand, but what's the question? What's the stira between levush hamaylim and sosum be'etzim? That's really the problem here.
Because sosum be'etzim means that there's no, it's not a levush, it's itself. It's a tainug. Chochmah is tainug.
Okay, probably. Okay. According to what we said before, niche, it makes sense. That the truth is, it's not like a levush. It's not a separate levush. So therefore, it basically has two dual properties that usually are a contradiction. That's yeah. So something like this. No. Like this. So let's just analyze this a second. Let me just finish the line here. Hold on. Ki'im shezel helam atzmi. It's not just like a regular levush. It's a helam atzmi. That's sosum be'etzim. Hayim shezel atzmi is atik mamish shenasa b'chinas chochmas tameh u'bezeh davke hu misalim. Hari b'chinas chochmas tameh hu kamoi atik mamish b'chinas b'stima shesosum be'etzim. Okay, let's stop for a moment there. In other words, what he's saying here is has dual properties. Generally speaking, our understanding of the process of transmission of something is like this. The teacher, let's say, has an idea, and now a student is on a lower level, so he has to conceal the idea to some extent to reveal it. So he does it through mashalim, through examples, analogies, bringing it down on lower level. The real question is a levush here. A levush is mailim. That's it. You can't then call that levush ha-mailim one with the etzem idea, and also one with the way it's, let's say, fundamentally be'etzem concealed inside the etzem of the teacher. I'm just using it as an example. So basically the question is like this. Since Chachma is outside of Tainug, it's another level, and we called it, it conceals, because it's called a kisui v'helam, kisui v'levush, of Atik, so how could you call it Sosum Be'etzim? Because it's an outside level. Sosum Be'etzim is the Atik. Is the pleasure, basically. So he's saying that Chochmah has a property that's similar to the Levush that we know, but it's not like a Levush outside. It is Atik, as it's expressed in another level called Chochmah, but the Chochmah is Atik, it's just in a different dimension. That's essentially what he's saying. So therefore, the Chochmah retains the Sosum Be'etzim while it's also Levush. In other words, in a way, Chochmah has something that Atik doesn't have, but it also has something that a regular Levush doesn't have, because it's a reflection of the Etzim of the thing itself. I'm trying to find some type of example. There are examples for this. One second.
I have an example.
Yeah.
I have an example. You see the light.
It makes sense what I just said.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. You have a light.
A lot of sense.
A lot of sense.
I don't know.
No, a lot of sense. You have a light. I think what I'm saying. You have a light from a candle, or
Yeah.
from a fire, and a light from the sun. To us, the light looks the same. But one is, a fire is burning, consuming something physical, and the other one is fusion of some another sort. In other words, it says that it's not even Eish. The fire of the thing is not, it's a different source, it's a different thing. Okay. It's Etzem. In Chassidus brought down, right, that it's Etzem. So in other words, to us it seems like that they're both the same. One is just bigger.
So what?
But really,
which
they're
one is
different. It's a
levush?
different. It's a different Metzias.
Which one is levush? Which one is the
I don't relate to this mashal.
Levush is the fire.
Why is it levush?
The fire because it needs. It's levush. It's in a gashmi. It has to burn something. It, has to, it doesn't. Without a gashmi, without psila, it doesn't.
What do you think? And the sun also is burning something.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It's not
I'll
burning.
show you. No.
It's not burning wood. Okay, so you're
No.
using a mashal of something that needs a mashal itself.
No, it says that science disagrees, but according to
One thing they taught us in yeshiva was that when the mashal is given and you need the mashal, more explanation for the mashal than for the nimshal,
Yeah.
you got a problem. See, you understand sun and light. I don't know the difference between
Okay. There's
Okay, fine. If it works, it works. Listen, what
For
should I
me,
tell
it
you?
works. No, because it says one
He's saying
thing.
the hydrogen bomb is
The
not-
gaggle, it says the
not
gaggle,
same
so the
process.
shemesh is higher than the gaggle halavana where there's eish. Where the Abba you say this is higher than Abba you say this. Let's talk about the thing.
Listen,
So according to the Abba you say this, one of them is eish. The sun is higher than the gaggle
listen,
halavana.
Mayor.
So it's nothing to do with eish.
Let's
It's not eish.
let's move on.
It looks like eish. It behaves to us like eish, like a big fire, but it has nothing to do with fire.
Okay.
Maybe just go over that same lines again.
Okay. Valpi hanal nicha. In other words, to say, since it's a levush hamaylim, it's a garment that conceals. So he says, but according to above it, we understand this because the levush, kisui and levush of chachmas dema, primis chachmas dema, ein ze kamay levush. It's not really like a garment, as we know it as a garment. Ki im shezeu helam atzmi. This level is a helam atzmi, means it's also a fundamental helam.
In other words, it's not levush that's hiding it. It's herem atz be'etzem is herem. Correct.
Yeah.
We don't need a levush to consider it.
Yeah. It's not an outside force.
Mhm.
Number one, it's not a second force. It is the helam atzmi. But let me just read. V'hainu shezeu atzmis atik mamish shenase b'chinas chachmas temel. Like for a levush, you cannot say, for example, my garment right now. You can't say my body became my garment. That's not the case. Or a moshel, that the moshel is the chachma became a moshel. No, a moshel is as they say a levush zar. Says Chassidus. It's a strange. It's an outside example. You know.
Could be like skin.
Someone would you say that would
Yeah, but it's no. Skin is also too much. I would say it's more what it says in Chassidus, because skin is also levush. In Chassidus, it talks about. I don't know if there's an example now about it. I mean, you could say it's more like the koiches hanefesh, if anything, but it's not either the koiches hanefesh because that's also outside.
so Simon, that's what you would say.
Okay, but let me just confuse you.
Would you say that mitzad us? Let's say somebody would say mitzad us, we see chachma, right? But l'mayla, there's no such thing as chachma. What he's saying here is that even l'mayla, if you look from up down, whether from the mitzad from the Eibishter, there is chachma. Even there is a yin of chachma. It's not tzimtzum of something hiding. There is the.
He's going to give an example, by the way. He's going to end the rest of the period gives an
Okay.
example for this. So let's just. I'll read it again. Okay. Shezeu atzmis atik mamish shenas b'chinas chachmas zeh dafka hu misalim.
Because become chachma setima, then that's why Davka with this is going to be thing, correct?
Yeah. Had b'chinas chachmas tema he k'moy atik mamish, not like a lavush. You can't call a lavush atik mamish. It's atik mamish shenas k'moy atik mamish b'chinas hastimus sestosum be'etzem. In other words, it's exactly like atik in its concealment. V'hinei mibchinas hastima hazeis nimshech koyach. Did I skip a line? No. Okay. V'hinei mibchinas.
It's like atik with its concealment. Atik is concealed
Yeah.
from what? From down here? Or?
Atik is concealed be'etzem. Atik is a state of being that is not doesn't have any revelation because it's an atzmizdika level. It's like tainug atzmi. I mean, he said before that Atik doesn't have so much helam because it doesn't have a keli, but that just means not that it's not that doesn't mean it's revealed. It just means that it's just where it is. Chochma is like the keli for Atik. Basically, it is the difference between a keli that's mechuber to the or one that's
We always learned that
separate.
Keli is a product of the level above.
Yeah, but here he's talking about a keli is basically chochma is atik on the keli of. It does say, for example, by Shem Havaya that the keli is like the in Teferes, whereas all the spheres it says the keli is separate from the air, even though they unite. But some things are the keli is the air. This has a similarity to that, where the keli is like basically almost like a transparent channel. It's very, very subtle, because remember, we're talking here about the unconscious. We're not even talking about Chachma Gali. Okay, let's continue here, because he's going to give an example. Okay, he's going to explain now what this concealment exactly is.
So is that the hester is because of
So from this stima, from this essential concealment, comes a koyach hester, the power to conceal. And here's the example he's going to give, which is going to be a pretty radical example. Al derech ve'evei sheichri musar. The pasuk says that someone that really loves their child
he gives him musa. Shochra is
right.
It's in dark.
Well, that someone who really loves someone will rebuke them, will reprimand and rebuke them when they're misbehaving. The person who loves, let's say, their child, will conceal and hide their ava atzuma, their intense love. In a level, haben yakir li Ephraim, my beloved son Ephraim. The mayim rabim lo yuchlu lechavas ha'ava. Even the greatest waters and floods cannot quench this type of love. Uksiv ki azu kamus ava de b'chinas avti eskom amar Hashem. Look how intense, look how powerful this ava is, in the level where Hashem says, I love you. He's talking about the Neshamas Yisrael. The im kol zeh. So no matter how intense this ava, nothing can conceal this ava. Nothing can quench this ava. Nothing can destroy it. Nevertheless, mechas ha'ava legamri, he completely conceals this love. B'koyach chachmasa yizbarach umara hepech. So with the wisdom of Hashem, he conceals this ava, and he demonstrates and he reflects Mara Hepech. He shows a face, he shows an attitude that's exact opposite of Ava in the time when he says Musaf. But the Tachlis HaKavana Bezeh, the Tachlis of this whole Musaf, of the concealment, it's in order to repair and to improve the behavior of the child, that the child should become much better than he was before. So what has he said so far? He says like this: there's a intense and unquenchable and unwavering ava love that the father has to his son, or the Eibishter has to Eden. And yet, when it comes to saying Musar also comes from that ava. The ava, what he wants to repair, he wants to improve the child's behavior. So he'll completely conceal his love. The child will only see, and we will only see the opposite, hepech. But the kavanah in it is in order to improve and make the child even better. So in other words, in a way, it's even deeper love. It's not on even. We have to appoint a responsible party. Okay. Now he continues. And he's going to give you now an example. Ha'ava eves b'noi mitzad. Huh? Oh, right. Okay, Yedua. Tough nun dalad. Okay, Yedua the primis ha'ava mizgala by hepech dafke. Yeah, the key line. Yedua that the primis of ava is revealed dafke in the opposite, because you see then another dimension that you wouldn't see in the revealed. In other words, if a father, as he's going to say, or would never conceal the ava in order to repair, so you'd see ava. But since his ava is so deep, the depth is expressed in the concealment. Okay, now he's going to say, ava eves b'nei, example like a father who loves his son, mitzad hateva. Naturally, biologically loves his son. She ava atzmis. This is a essential ava. It's not a ava for a reason. It's not tluy b'davar. It's ava atzmis. It comes from the natural thing that a father will love his son. The ava zu yeshna b'liboy b'tmidus, and he always has this love, ava, and always continuously, tmidus, in his heart. Rakshi behelam, except it's concealed. In other words, it's not. You look at someone, you don't always see their love for their son or their child, but it's there all the time. Ukasher haben meifel haaretz, and when the child, the son, falls to the ground, a mistanef, or he gets dirty, soiled, ukademe, or similar to that, oze yirgis, v'yichas alav ha'av ma'id, his father will get very upset and angry, alasher hushpal v'nimas kolkach, and the fact that the child fell and became so nimas, so disgusting. Kolkach u'miyaseh eis, and he will miyaseh painik. He will
punish him.
It's usually admonish. Miyaseh in this case, musar avicha.
Yeah, it's probably he says musar avicha. How do you tell you eve sheichre musar sheichre?
The Latins him from Musa, no?
First thing when he gets up in the morning,
He gives him so much Musa, so all of this rebuke.
Grants him.
Sheichre is grants or blackens, like he says.
No.
Eve sheichre
No,
musar.
he gives.
Medra sheikh atayv.
Right, sheikh. Okay. So anyway, miyaseh al zeh. Let's just make this clear that this is talking about a father. Obviously, that's not dysfunctional, and it's very healthy. And all this is coming out because of his own natural anger. We got to qualify everything today. And I remember that everyone saying to Fabrengen that Amal, there was a custom that they used to slap or hit a child. Today he said the custom is that you put this stick on the wall and you just show it to him, you never use it. Because the Rebbe said, why? He said, because in our day and age, there's a unique Sechatzeni, many people who, if you have Yiras Shamayim, I remember by Fabrengen, because I remember Rabbi Tenenbaum, the principal, was standing there, it was like a lesson in Chinuch. The Rebbe said, because today, people do not have the Yiras Shamayim, that when they touch someone else, in other words, Gvura, that's coming from a Gedusha Dika place. The Rebbe made it very clear that it's coming from people's personal anger or other things, that you can't trust it. Remember, in the early memes, made it very clear.
Wow.
It's like almost like forbade touching a child by a parent, or even though, the concept that says you should never don't sparing the rod.
Chaysech shiftay.
Cheshech shifta, yeah.
Chaysech shiftay.
Meaning withholding the rod is hating the child. The Rebbe made it very clear. It's not the only place. I did research on this. The Rebbe felt that in our day and age, you don't have the type of Yiras Shamayim teacher. That is just, some people, they just get out of control, or they're just angry people in general. Remember,
So that does that extend to just yelling at your kids or muster? Where do you stop?
The truth is, it's a very good question.
How's that?
And something. It's a very good question, but I'll just say this: as a parent myself, if let's say your kid does something, if it's anger initial anger, probably not to be trusted so much. If you reflect on it, like for a few minutes, and get out of your rage, and then say, maybe it's healthy that he should see that I am upset, then you're in control of it. Yeah, it has to be with Aveda. It can't be because it frustrated you. It's not about you. That's the real healthy way. So reflecting on it, and then saying to your child, I remember the Rebbe spoke about this a lot. It was like it's very profound stuff. Like the Frierdiker Rebbe says, his father touched him once. Just a touch.
The word touch, it's misunderstood.
Yeah.
Meaning he hit him once.
Yeah, he hit him once, but it was really a touch. He said he touched him on the cheek. He didn't really slap
It
him.
was a soft slap.
Yeah. But then he saw his father standing in a corner and crying. He says that was the chinuch, something like that, Zalosh. In other words, you see a father doing that, you understand that it wasn't like a slap that came from some type of uncontrolled. Even like when the people misunderstand, they think Moshe got angry and he threw the luchas down. It was very deliberate. He didn't lose control. It was a very deliberate act, as Rashi says. So it's that type of approach where there's a sensitivity. The rule is like this: if the child doesn't feel the ava there and just getting the anger, you're probably doing some damage. There has to be that the child knows It's not like my father got angry. You know, it has to be that the child knows that it's a profound. I mean, that second, no child wants to be punished, obviously, but you have to in some way convey.
They have all these experts speak about how to deal with truth. Do they mention anything like this?
And even by us, not. By us, Rebbe. Look, what is Baal Shem Tov was so upset when he went into shuls where a Maggid would get up and make everybody cry. Now, it's not because the Maggid said wrong things or something, because it was completely, it was all and negative. It was just making people, there was, you know, what he says in Tanya, the difference between Atzvus.
The Maggid also did it as a calculation, maybe.
Oh, the Nish, but bottom line, he was demoralizing people and not motivating them.
No, that's a whole different aspect.
Now, in Tanya, he says, for example, Atzvus and Merirus, which is a rule. The rule is like this. Anything that demoralizes a person and weakens them and doesn't motivate them is not Kedusha. If I speak to you harshly, but it motivates you and you feel sad, and you're going to do something about it. If I just rebuke you and make you feel like crap, like garbage.
The person who's doing the rebuking, giving musa in speech, thinks he's motivating people.
Look, I'm not talking about what he thinks. The question is what is happening.
I mean, when I saw the Rebbe yell and scream at a bacher for taking his picture one morning, I was right there. I was shook to the... Did you learn Tanya? Did you learn Tanya?
I was there too.
So what did he say? Learn Tanya. He didn't just like slap
But he
him.
was yelling. It was. I was shaking.
But look, right away, the Rebbe's line was learn Tanya. He didn't say what kind of right of you.
Oh, come on. He was
I was
very...
there.
He spoke
I
loud.
remember
Good. The way he took it, it was like the loudest thing you'd ever heard in his life.
It's true. But
When
no,
he
but
was
the
saying
Rebbe said that all the Rebbe did says stop and said, "Did you learn Tanya?"
Yeah, he
That's
wasn't
all he
like
said.
very. No, he said it a couple of times, and he said it loud.
It's interesting. Do you saw the same thing?
I saw it.
Okay.
I was right there too.
But listen. You know,
Right there.
well,
2 feet away.
you know, I'll just say one thing. I'll tell you one thing I saw. And the only time that the Rebbe himself acknowledged that it was inappropriate. The Rebbe said about himself. Now, I don't call it inappropriate, but the Rebbe said it. It was Tafshin Chav Ches, 1968. I was a kid. I was 11. And it was Shabbos morning. And at the end of davening, you know, it was a shul was empty. 770 was still the old 770. It was small. I was one of the kids. And I was up front. And the Rebbe would turn, by the end of davening, he would stand by the bimah as the Gabbai would make announcements. You know, after Aleinu, after all the... And it was you know, Shabbos had just done. And no one knew whether there was going to be a Farbrengen. If the Rebbe would walk out before he announced Mincha, it meant there was a Farbrengen. If the Rebbe would remain standing... No, I'm sorry, the opposite. The Rebbe remained standing, he would announce Mincha, meant there was no Farbrengen. If the Rebbe walked out right away, it meant there was a Farbrengen.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, okay. There was another thing then that the Rebbe was telling Waldman people what Rashi he would speak on, which also was a sign there was a break. So people already knew before davening, often in those. Anyway, here's what happened. The Gabbai gets up, Zalman Duchman, Rabbi Zalman Duchman, and he finishes this and he says, and the Rebbe is going to fabring, and the Rashi is going to be so and so. I never saw this in my life. The Rebbe standing at the bimah physically ran out. His face was red. I mean, if you can call it anger, it was anger, and he started yelling. He says, who said such a thing? I want to know who told you such a thing, that there's going to be a Rashi. I want that person to come here right now. And he was
He
yelling.
was standing there wasn't going to be a Farbrengen anyway, he just said. He said
No, but he announced it. No, he announced it. There was no minute. He announced the Rashi, which never happened. The Rebbe never told
the Rebbe
anybody.
was standing
There
there.
were times that the Rebbe would say a Rashi before in
I
the morning.
understand.
So if the Rebbe told some of the Rashi,
That overrode everything.
Oh, that overrode everything, even if the Rebbe didn't walk out. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Right. So the Rebbe started yelling, and he walked out at good 20 feet, and the place was. I mean, the Rebbe was so upset, enraged, and no one would. He says, and he kept repeating, who gave such authority? There's something like who's saying to something like almost like who's telling me what I'm supposed to be doing.
I thought it was like who's saying in my name things that didn't happen.
It was a combination. I remember the Asis. The Rebbe said, "Wer hat das gesagt? Wer die gemaz achreis?" Whatever, something like that. Anyway, they finally brought the guy who did it.
Really?
No, it wasn't his fault actually. He was listening in to two guys joking. Not joking. One of them was they were saying, if the Rebbe Farbrengs, maybe this Rashi is what he's going to talk about. Zalman Duchman overheard that. So he thought that's a fact. Anyway, I don't remember the exact details. There was somebody that made some type of joke and almost told Zalman Duchman that, I'm not sure exactly. That guy left to Israel, I think, and As
I don't know, Zalman Dukman sounds like the culprit. I mean, he's overheard something.
whatever you want to say. Anyway, the Rebbe
No,
this,
that's not- yeah.
and there was no Farbrengen, obviously, and it was very, very disturbing.
Wow.
1 second, listen, what happened next Shabbos? I think it was Parsha Shmini.
Mm.
This was Tzav, and I think it was Shmini. I'm not positive about that. The next Shabbos, middle of the Rebbe speaks and says, Kol HaKayas Ki Ila Eva L'Veda Zara,
Mm.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
on himself.
Wow.
And he said that since, the Rebbe said basically that he got angry, and it was like at the moment, he had basically asked Mechila, essentially.
Wow.
I don't know if you use that word, but it was very
Wow.
harsh.
Wow.
It's printed.
Yeah. But it's not either way. The Rebbe, I don't know. The Rebbe basically is spoke about himself. But it's a lesson. This is the Rebbe. Even this anger, obviously, is not anger coming from Klippa, Chaz v'Shalom. But by the Rebbe, subtly, it was like seen. He saw it as a moment of whatever. The dakas. And then you know what happened? He explained the Rashi. He said since it was announced as Rocha Pratis, it was like a redeeming way that the Nechanami made him upset, but then he went and spoke on this Rashi that last week, and then he spoke the Rashi of this week. Interesting lesson in life. I learned a lot from that because look, the fact of the matter, most of us get angry. Let's be honest. It's not anger of kedusha. It's we have anger inside of us. Something provokes us. So at times it's pure. So you have to really you have to much check yourself. There's no question about it. Because most of our impulsive actions are not coming from a tzaddik level. When a Moshe Rabbeinu, the Eibishter gets angry, it's an anger that's coming as a result of a behavior that was inappropriate. And it's like with the cheshbon.
So he hit the rock.
Yeah, in a charami. Those things are bedakus. On his level, that's considered chilul Hashem. Anyway, let's just finish this perek fast because I think the example here is good. You gotta go already. It's 8:11. But anyway, because it's relatively easy this end.
He missed a million every morning.
Okay.
וכל זה הוא.
וכל זה הוא שהאב הכריחה עשה לזה. So all this is an explanation how the father's depth of his love was machriach him, compelled him to miyaser, to painikin, to let's say, to rebuke, admonish his son for falling because of the ava, not because of his anger, because of the ava. If he didn't love him, he wouldn't care. Klav. He wouldn't at all care. Mashanishpol. He wouldn't care that why he fell. Just like he doesn't care, just like he doesn't get angry on the son of his friend. It's only because of this intense ava to him that he gets upset. Because it touches his heart. And the more the child is precious to him, the more it's going to affect him, more it's going to touch him. So, we see from this. Even though chesenius externally it's gvura, v'rega is an anger, Dafka in this is the depth of his love. That's how much he loves him, that he cares. Now if you convey that to your child, he'll be fine. Now here's the mashal. So from this we understand that the gvura is not like a lavush, an outside garment. שבאופן כזה הוא דווקא בהשפעה שמצד... אין כמה לבוש על האהבה, שבאופן כזה הוא דווקא בהשפעה שמצד האהבה. What does that mean?
I think he gives an example that after you have to figure out the words.
וכמו האב, שמצד אהבה של לבני, הרי הוא משפיע לו שצורך להיילם בזה, האהבה והחסד שלא יסגל ביסר.
That's a different type of example.
Yeah. So it's not like a lavush, for example, like we said with a teacher and a student, a father wants to transmit something to his child, so he has to conceal it. Okay, it's like spoon feeding, where you have to give to the child something. You can't give him even though it's coming from Ava, you have to conceal some of the intensity of it to be able to transmit it to the child, or else he wouldn't be able to receive it. And then there are other times where he has to conceal the ava, whatever reason. In those situations, the gvura is only a lavush to the ava. The be'emes ha'gvura ain't a gvura amitis. The truth is the gvura is not true gvura. Shari rak lahaylim b'chdei sheyi is galus ava v'ever shetuchel is kabel.
So there it's talking about Chatchila, not true Gvura.
This is
So it's a levush to the Av. Whereas in the first example,
Well, he's going to fires. He's going to fires. Uvahelim b'zeh ain't a helim gomer. Gam imaylim avosim mamenu. And it's not a real concealment, even if he conceals it. Va'ava hirach chitzenis
that's
ava.
another side of the coin, which is interesting.
Right. Exactly.
If it was a real concealment, a Talmud Chacham wouldn't figure out that Moshe Rabbeinu really wasn't mad.
No. We're talking here not about man. Here he's doing a different example completely.
But it doesn't matter.
When the person is
With that example.
he's saying it's different from that example.
Oh,
Here he's saying that when a person is teaching, when a rabbi is teaching a Talmud, so the Talmud can't receive everything,
Right.
so he has to cover up mitzad his ava to the Talmud. He has to cover up on some of the stuff that he can get.
right.
There is different. There is that the gvura is a levush to the ava. It's not even a real gvura. It's for the purpose of giving. He has to hold back.
It sounds like the same example.
And he's saying here that
Why is it different? What's the difference?
Right,
What's the
Mashenkin.
difference?
Let's read it.
Because it's
Why do we have to speculate? The Rebbe
Yeah.
said.
No, I didn't say it yet.
It's a
Okay.
tool. The Dagvur is a tool.
Okay, but helim b'zeh ain't a helim gomer, and the ava is also not such a profound ava. It's only chitzenis. Mashenkin b'reigas hanal. However, in the anger that we mentioned earlier, how does it kavura mamish? It's not ava. It's kavura mamish. That misragas u'miskayis b'shas ma'aseh, because you see he gets angry and upset at the moment. Shu b'kaselov. He's angry at him.
It's a fake anger, though.
No.
inside he's angry.
No, outside he's angry.
Okay.
Inside.
It's not fake?
Yeah, here it's not explained.
It's not fake,
Hold
it's
on,
not fake.
just hold on.
Achsibas hakas. Achsibas hakas hu av atzmis. The cause of the anger is the intense love. Etzem mahusa shel hagvura hi ava.
Yeah.
The etzem mahusa of the gvura is ava. Lo shirak levush ela ava. It's not just a garment of the ava. Kim etzem mahusa hi ava. The dafka ava atzmis mamish.
Because he loves him, that's why becomes angry.
Right.
Not that that's
Yeah, it's very clear.
That's the first one. Yeah.
It's very clear. For example, let's just say this: if a father didn't really love his son, in the ava atzmis, if his son fell or did something, the father wouldn't do anything. Just ignore it. That same father would transmit things to the son with a lavush of ava, but you would never see the intensity unless when the child falls, because then you suddenly see the parent cares so much that he goes and does that. You know, I mean, Misragis gets us a little confused, but think of it this way: let's say a child gets lost, God forbid, and a father will go to the end of the world to find the child. You see in that the Gilia Ava much more than when you see it in regular day-to-day activity, where he's transmitting, like even with a helam, like we spoke, with a helam of the lavush. The point is, in other words, it's the negative experience that causes a real gvura to come out, but the gvura be'etzem is revealing a whole different level of ava.
Okay, I think we're bending over backwards a little bit. Let's say it's simple. The father gets upset. He gets angry. Why does he get angry? Because he loves his child so much. Forget about how he presents it to the child.
It's not an act.
Forget about how he presents it to the child, which is a different story.
No, we're not discussing
He's really
that.
getting upset. And that's what it's gvura right now. The reason for the gvura is the ava. Whereas in teaching, it's the other way around. What's happening now? Ahava. What's happening now is ahava. In order to give this ava, this teach, he needs to cover it up with gvura to cover up.
Or in your example would be, like in today's world, the guy, how to be a parent would say, if the child does such and such, then you should get angry at him. So
let's just finish the pedic, so we could. Those that have to leave have to leave. One second.
Right.
Okay, Rakshaba. Okay. Ki im etzem mahusi ava v'dafka ava atzmis mamish rakshaba b'tziur hagvura. It only comes in the shape and form of gvura. Aval etzem mahusi ava atzmis. But the mahus, the etzem mahus of this anger is ava atzmis. Ubehasir hachitzenis mizgala primis. And when you take away you remove the chitzenis, meaning the chitzenis anger, you'll see profound ava. You'll see the primis. And the reason for that is because adarabba, on the contrary, hagvura zeis mevias ha'ava atzmis bizgalus. This gvura reveals even the ava atzmis in a revealed way, which before you couldn't see it. The beleza harihum behelam belibe. You'd never know this profound love for the father without the anger, because without it, it would be concealed in his heart.
The intensity is really the intensity that you see as intensity of anger is really intensity of love.
Right. U'mashem izgalu hu rak ha'orech hatzenis.
He's Taka really angry though.
I don't know about Taka really angry. He doesn't say that. He just says that he gets angry because of the love for preparing the child. I don't know if Taka angry. He could say that he's really not angry.
As a yirgaz yichas olav ha'moid.
That's the only
Yeah,
difference.
And we added in that he's making it on the outside, which talks about elsewhere, but it doesn't talk about it here. This concept of being only angry on the outside
hurts him.
is
It
spoken
bothers
about in
him
Siddur and
that
in
the kid is
Torah.
not-
But here he doesn't talk about that.
Yes, he does with the Talmud.
He doesn't even know that.
The getting angry on the outside only, which is an important point, but it's not discussed here.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
He doesn't know
No,
that.
but
He's
the
not gonna
reality
take
is
it
it
anyway.
hurts him that the child is not behaving. That's all.
Right.
So, and because of the love. That's all.
As a result, why do parents make mistakes? Terrible mistakes with their children? Because they love their children. They love them so much.
I don't know if that's what
That's
he's
why they
saying.
make the mistakes.
That's not what he's saying.
Do we make such mistakes with other people's children?
Yeah, but he's not saying that. It's a whole different story.
It's because of this love and this gvura that comes out of this love.
I would not connect. I actually would interpret this like the Rebbe Rashab with the Frierdiker Rebbe. I think that it appears like anger, but lav dafka that he gets angry like out of control anger or something. You know what we usually identify with anger.
And I say it can happen in any different
No,
way.
to me,
Every parent can be different.
if anything, it looks to me like that he is showing his son this is inappropriate. And how does he show it? Through the anger and through that.
Is he really angry or just fakes the anger?
I don't know what you mean. But he's
Fake
upset.
anger.
He's upset. I don't know the
Is he
word.
an actor?
It's
He's
not the
upset.
point.
Is
That's
he
not relevant here. I mean, no, he's truly upset. That's not acting.
truly upset.
Of course, because the child loves him, and the child is fell and is the child is in a situation that needs repair. Is he angry at the child, or is he angry at what happened to the child? You want to put it that way. Obviously, not angry at the child, but because he loves his child. He's angry at what happened to the child, and he wants the child to know that you have to do something about this. It's what the child did, so to speak. Also, it says the child fell. I mean, when a father gets angry because a child falls and gets dirty,
No,
obviously it's not about, it means that he's
Spiritually fell or whatever.
disturbed by the child. Let's say it doesn't even seek it was an accident, it was a deliberate.
The kid was being wild. The kid wasn't being careful. That's how he was neifel and mistana. He wasn't careful with the new suit that he got. And he got all filthy. He ruined.
And then he fell by accident, or he intentionally pushed himself into the mud.
No,
It's irrelevant. If he was wild and he fell by accident because he wasn't careful,
But it doesn't say he was wild. It says he fell.
because he's giving such an empirical
You're-
example that happens to every single father.
I
that
don't
he
know.
doesn't have to explain it because everyone knows it.
I disagree with you. I disagree totally with that. He doesn't say that. I think it has nothing to do with the child. It has to do with the child's situation. He's trying to teach the child that getting dirty. It's not about blaming. He's not blaming his child. It's not about blame. That you fell and you shouldn't have been wild. It's about being upset with the child's. Right now, the child is dirty. That's the bottom line.
Then it says, as Dr. Lai says, if it's a spiritual fall, then it's much more painful, and then
Yeah, of course.
So that's more because of love. It comes out.
Let's finish. We have three more lines.
And
with this anger, the negative, the gvura comes. The ava atzma comes out revealed. But it comes in the shape and form of gvura. So then, when you remove the outside tzir, the external tzir, what's revealed? The primis ava. Primis. And so then, when a son receives this ba'ava, what's this ava? Why is he adding ba'ava?
Yeah, because he feels that why his father is angry, because he loves him.
Yeah.
That's why.
There's two ways that you can see this ava.
And when he repairs himself, one second. The ozmizgala primis ava ba'ava yiseda the primis ava atzmis mamash.
Powerful.
And all this is a marshal for chochmas demor being a levush hamaylim to atik. Okay, interesting. I think it's going to go. The plot thickens because I see the next chapter is on Golos. It's going to explain Golos basically.
So,
That's what the same idea.
So it's appropriate for the 9 days.
So obviously, Chachma Tzemor, Chachma it really doesn't seem at all like tiny.
Yeah, but it's not an opposite. I don't know if it's compared to an
Why?
opposite. It's not like
The pain and pleasure.
Tomorrow.
Wait, so the Sefer Al-Kutim was printed before Ayin Beis was printed?
okay, because yeah.
I think those
Simen.
Let me just conclude. Fine, 1 second. We'll close this.